What would you do if your own child erased you from their wedding and replaced you with the very man who walked out on your family? Would you stay silent and keep writing the checks? Or would you finally let the truth speak for itself? This isn't just a story about a canceled wedding. It's about a father's love pushed too far. It's about betrayal, silence, and one decision that changed everything. Let me tell you what really happened. Because sometimes, being the bigger person means finally walking away. My son uninvited me from his wedding and chose the man who walked out on us. Then he used my retirement fund to celebrate it. That line has lived in my head for weeks now. I've said it out loud once, just once, to my wife Debbie when I finally broke down on the porch last Sunday. But mostly it's been bouncing around in my chest like a slow-burning fire I don't know how to put out. My name's Mark Langston. I'm 58, a retired civil engineer from Boise, Idaho. And I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who sits down to spill his soul like this. But I need to get this story off my chest because it's eating me alive, and maybe, just maybe, if I say it out loud, I'll stop blaming myself. This isn't just about a wedding, it's about betrayal. About erasure. About watching the person you raised choose someone who vanished over someone who stayed. And it's about realizing, far too late, that sometimes love isn't enough, not when it's one-sided. My son Tyler is 29. Bright, creative, sensitive in a way I always admired even when I didn't fully understand it. He was my world for a long time after his mother left. It was just the two of us. I used to think we were survivors together. Turns out, I was just a placeholder. It all came crashing down the moment I saw that name. Father of the groom, Rick Jensen. Rick. The man who left Tyler when he was 9. The man who disappeared with my ex-wife and never once sent so much as a birthday card. The man who told me in a parking lot, "He's your kid now," before driving off into the Arizona dust. That same man was now walking my son down the aisle. And me? I wasn't even on the guest list. That would have been bad enough, but what made it worse, what twisted the knife deeper than I thought possible, was knowing I'd paid for the whole thing. $42,000, to be exact. Pulled from my retirement account because I believed, like any dad would, that this was a gift. A chance to be part of a day he'd remember forever. And in a way, I guess I still will be. Just not how I expected. No toast, no father-son dance, no moment at the altar, just silence. I've been erased, funded, and deleted. And I'm still trying to understand why. If you've ever been cut out of someone's life after giving them everything you had, maybe you'll understand what I'm about to share. This is what it looks like when you give your heart and someone uses it to build a stage where you're not even welcome in the crowd. Couldn't find steady work for a while. Lived back home with me and Debbie for almost 2 years. We didn't charge him rent. Debbie made his lunches every day like clockwork. When his car broke down, I gave him mine and started taking the bus to work. He grumbled, complained, isolated, but I figured that's just how young men are when they're lost. Then came Aaron. They met at a 4th of July barbecue hosted by one of Tyler's college friends. Aaron worked for a local marketing firm and had this big personality, super warm, quick with a joke, and really, there's this memory I keep going back to lately. It's nothing fancy. Just a late Sunday night, maybe a year after Lisa left. I had just gotten home from my second shift, tired, dirty, and barely functioning, and I found Tyler asleep on the living room floor with his science project halfway done. The kid had tried so hard to build some homemade volcano, using flour and baking soda and whatever else a 9-year-old could find. It had collapsed in on itself. Just a pile of paste and tears. He must have waited up for me. That night I cleaned up the mess, fixed what I could, and stayed up till 3 helping him get it into shape. We didn't win anything, but he smiled. And in that moment, it felt like I was doing something right. That's the version of fatherhood I lived in for years. No big victories, just constant, quiet endurance. Lisa, his mom, left when he was still in elementary school. She didn't just walk out on me, she walked out on both of us. Said she couldn't breathe in Idaho anymore. Said Rick made her feel alive. And off they went to chase art galleries and some sun-drenched life in Arizona, leaving behind a stunned kid and a man who suddenly had to become everything at once. I'm not saying I did it perfectly. God knows I didn't. There were years I was too tired to be patient. Years where I missed parent-teacher nights because a concrete bid ran late, or I got stuck on a rebar delivery to Twin Falls. But I showed up when it counted. I was there for every fever, every detention, every slammed door and silent dinner. I stayed. When Tyler hit his teens, things got hard fast. He got deep into online gaming. Like, really deep. He stopped going out, stopped doing schoolwork, became this moody, angry version of the boy I used to know. I tried therapy. I tried reward systems. At one point, I even installed one of those tracking apps on his phone to see if he was sneaking out. He wasn't. He was just getting worse in silence. I transferred him to a new school in Meridian after some bullying incidents that went south. Paid for private counseling after he punched a locker and split his knuckle. We had fights, sure. But I never stopped trying. Never stopped believing that the real Tyler was still in there, waiting to be reached. And slowly, he came back. When he got accepted to Boise State for digital design, I cried in the car, didn't let him see, just sat there in the driveway gripping the wheel like I'd won the lottery. I knew it wasn't Harvard or Stanford or anything, but it was his first real step forward. I helped him move into the dorms, gave him my old laptop, paid his first semester in full quietly, behind the scenes so he wouldn't stress over loans. He never asked how, he just said thanks. He never once said he loved me, but I told myself that wasn't the point. Some people show love differently. I just had to keep showing up. After college, he had a rough go. Attentive to Tyler. At first, I wasn't sure what to make of him. I'll admit it, part of me worried I wouldn't fit into their new world. But I tried. I really did. I took them both out to dinner. Invited Aaron to Thanksgiving. Even let them stay in our guest room for a few months when Aaron's lease fell through. I wanted to support them, not just tolerate them. Support them, love them. I thought I was doing okay. So when Tyler came to me 6 months ago and said he and Aaron were planning to get married, I was stunned, yeah, but happy. Not because I thought marriage would fix everything, but because he was finally choosing something. Finally stepping into something that looked like a future. He told me, awkwardly, that they were short on cash. Said Aaron's family couldn't help much, and their savings had gone towards student loans. I didn't even let him finish the pitch. I just told him I'd handle it. I want to give you this, I said. You only get married once. You deserve something beautiful. His eyes welled up. And for a moment, I swear for a moment, I thought we were finally reconnecting. Like maybe all those years of struggle were leading us here. To this moment where I could finally just be dad, no strings. We spent a weekend looking at venues online. He got excited about this lakeside lodge in Oregon, right near Crater Lake. I made a few calls, paid the deposit within the week. He thanked me, hugged me, said he couldn't wait for me to walk him down the aisle. That was the last time he called me dad to my face. Funny thing is, I remember the sound of that hug more than the words. The way he exhaled when I pulled him in, like he let go of something he'd been carrying. I held on a little longer than I should have, because deep down I think I knew. People don't hold that tight when everything's okay. They do it when something's already slipping away. The first red flag didn't look like much at the time. It was just a text from Tyler. Short, almost too short. Hey, from now on, Aaron's handling the vendor stuff. He's better with logistics. I didn't think twice. I figured they were just dividing tasks, normal couple stuff. I'd been forwarding invoices and approvals straight to Tyler, but if Aaron was stepping in, that was fine with me. As long as things kept moving, I didn't care who signed the emails. Then a few weeks passed. No updates from Tyler. No photos of suits or playlists or table settings. Just forwarded emails from Aaron. This looks great. Thanks for covering this, Mark. Much appreciated. Always polite. Always distant. At some point, Debbie asked, "So, what's the date again?" I realized I didn't know. I'd seen options, but no confirmed calendar invite. No save the date. No itinerary. I texted Tyler, just casual. "Hey bud, just wondering when I should block off work stuff around the wedding. Let me know." No reply. I followed up 2 days later. Still nothing. I finally called. Straight to voicemail. I figured maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe things are chaotic, but something didn't feel right. Then came the second red flag, a big one. My younger brother Nick called to ask about flight arrangements. Said he was trying to coordinate with his wife's school schedule and needed to book early. I'll just confirm with the planner. What's the guy's name again? I had no idea. Tyler had told me they'd hired a coordinator, but I'd never met him. I dug through emails and finally found a message from a company in Portland. I gave them a call, expecting a quick conversation. But the second I mentioned my name, the tone shifted. "I'm sorry, Mr. Langston," the voice on the other end said. "I'm not authorized to share guest list information. You'd need to speak with the couple directly." "What?" I laughed. "I'm paying for this. You don't need to share guest details, just tell me the date and venue confirmation." More awkward silence. "I understand, sir, but we've been instructed not to disclose any planning details without prior approval." That's when the alarm bells stopped ringing and started screaming. I told him flat out, "You either send me the details or I'll be calling your supervisor and pausing every payment until someone decides to treat me like the client I am." He relented. Sent the guest list that night. I wish I hadn't opened it. There, under family attending, my name was nowhere to be found. Not mine, not Debbie's, not Nick's, not even my sister, who Tyler used to call Aunt Rena every summer. But one name stood out like a punch to the chest. Father of the groom, Rick Jensen. I stared at it for a long time, thinking maybe there was another Rick Jensen. A mistake. A glitch. But the planner had also forwarded earlier correspondence just in case I needed clarity. It wasn't a mistake. Tyler had personally requested Rick be listed as the one to walk him down the aisle. The same man who hadn't made a single school play. Hadn't called during any of Tyler's hospital stays. The man who told Lisa, "I didn't sign up for this," before skipping town. And now, somehow, he was back and honored. While I was being erased, I didn't cry. Not right then. What I felt was darker, a burning in my throat I couldn't name. I paced the living room like a man whose house had just been robbed, but the thief had taken something invisible. When Debbie got home from work, I showed her the email without a word. She read it once, slowly, then again. She didn't say anything for a while. Just took off her coat, set it over a chair, and sat down beside me. "You need to call him," she said finally. I did. Straight to voicemail. I left a message. Calm, short. Just, "We need to talk, Tyler." He never called back. Instead, I started hearing things. My cousin Elaine called me a few days later. Said she'd heard I wasn't coming to the wedding because of tension. When I asked what she meant, she hesitated. "Well, Tyler said you weren't comfortable being there because of, the dynamics." "What dynamics?" I pressed. She went quiet. "He said you've never really accepted him, that you've always had issues with his life choices." I felt the room tilt beneath me. That's when the story started unraveling. Over the next week, more phone calls came in, friends, extended family, even one of Tyler's old high school teachers who'd kept in touch. Each one dancing around the same idea. That I had somehow rejected Tyler. That I was a cold, controlling father who only cared about appearances. That Debbie was hostile and had made things uncomfortable for years. None of it was true. None. But Tyler had been spreading these stories for months, apparently, laying the groundwork, painting me as a villain to everyone who might ask why his own father wasn't at the wedding. I found an old email chain in my spam folder, from his college roommate. An accidental forward. In it, Tyler referred to me as the checkbook, said he was only keeping in touch to get through this one last favor. That one broke me. I wasn't just being replaced, I was being rewritten, turned into a character in someone else's story. And the worst part? No one stopped to ask if it was true. I shut down after that. I stopped checking my emails, turned off notifications on my phone, let the wedding invoices pile up on the corner of my desk like unopened letters from some other life. I couldn't look at them, couldn't even bear to hear the word wedding without flinching. The house got quiet, not peaceful, quiet. The kind where you notice every creak in the floorboards and the hum of the refrigerator sounds like a siren. Debbie tried to reach me, in small ways, bringing me tea, suggesting we go for walks, leaving my favorite cookies on the kitchen counter. But I couldn't meet her eyes. It wasn't just about being uninvited. It was about being rewritten, deleted, gaslit by my own flesh and blood. I started spending my days on the porch, just sitting, watching the same stretch of street, waiting for something that wouldn't come. My neighbors probably thought I was sick. In a way, I guess I was. I never felt grief like this, like someone had died, but the body kept walking around and talking to people and telling them you were the reason they left. I stopped shaving, stopped eating much. Debbie begged me to call a therapist. I couldn't even pick up the phone. She'd leave early for her shift at the VA hospital, then come home to find me exactly where she left, same chair, same clothes, same stare. Once, she sat down next to me with a bowl of soup and said gently, "Mark, I miss you." I didn't answer. What could I say? I missed me too. I tried reaching out to Tyler one more time. I don't know why. Maybe because somewhere in me, I still believed a son would never do this without a reason. I texted him something like, "Just tell me what I did. I'll listen. I just want to understand." Blocked. I tried emailing. Got a bounce back. Recipient not accepting messages from this address. That's when it really hit me. He wasn't just cutting me out of the wedding. He was cutting me out of his life. I sat alone in my office that night, staring at an old framed photo on the bookshelf Tyler at his high school graduation, arms around both me and Debbie, smiling like he meant it. God, he looked young. We all did. There was a time when I thought we'd made it through the storm. Turns out, I was just the umbrella he tossed aside once the rain stopped. To make things worse, the rumors started reaching people closer to me. My cousin Diane called. "You really told Tyler you'd disown him if he married Erin?" "What?" "That's what he said at brunch." He was crying. I dropped the phone. Debbie picked it up, talked to Diane calmly, professionally, like a social worker talking someone off a ledge. When she hung up, she turned to me and said, "Mark, people are believing this because he's giving them a version of you that sounds wounded and plausible, and because you're silent. But if I speak, it makes me look defensive. And if you stay silent," she said, "they get to build you however they want." I remember staring at my hands, resting on my knees. "These hands built his crib," I whispered. "They packed his lunches, fixed his brakes, wrote his tuition checks. And now he talks about me, like I'm a stranger." Debbie reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I wasn't angry at her. I was just ashamed. Ashamed I hadn't seen it coming. Ashamed I'd let it happen. Ashamed that I still wanted to see him walk down that aisle, even after everything. Then the wedding planner emailed me again, subject line, "Final menu approvals due." I didn't open it. I threw my phone across the room. That night, I finally broke. I sat in the dark living room while Debbie slept, and I cried harder than I've ever cried in my life. Not the dignified tears of a man with heartbreak. Number, I sobbed. Full body, heaving sobs that made my ribs hurt. I thought about everything I had done, every compromise I had made, every time I swallowed my own needs to put him first. And all of it, every act of love had been reinterpreted as control, manipulation, or worse. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Debbie found me still sitting there. I hadn't moved. She didn't say a word, just walked over and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. For the first time in days, I let her hold me. And that's when something started to shift, not because the pain got smaller, but because I finally allowed someone else to carry a piece of it with me. Later that week, one of Tyler's college friends posted a photo of the wedding rehearsal invite. I wasn't tagged, but I saw it. I saw the floral design that matched the invoice I'd paid. I saw the name Rick Jensen listed as a featured speaker. That night, I sat on the back porch again, and I said it out loud, for the first time, "He doesn't want me there." Saying it felt like pushing air through glass, because once I said it, I had to ask the next question. What am I still doing funding this? The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I didn't plan it. My body just knew. For the first time in weeks, I showered and shaved, put on a clean flannel shirt. I caught my own reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Still tired, still bruised, but awake. Awake in a way I hadn't been since this whole thing started. I walked into the kitchen. Debbie was already up, packing her lunch for work. She looked at me and didn't say a word, just smiled. "You okay?" she asked softly. "No," I said. "But I'm done being quiet." I made a pot of coffee, pulled out the thick stack of wedding receipts from the desk drawer, and started sorting through them. Page after page of deposits, retainers, custom arrangements, special requests. There were charges for everything from monogram napkins to a drone video team. I'd already sunk nearly $29,000 into this wedding, not even counting travel logistics and the final venue payment due the following week. It wasn't the money that broke me. It was the idea that every cent of it was being used to honor a lie. I took a deep breath and picked up the phone. First call, the caterers. I asked to speak to the owner directly. Told him I was the one funding the event and I needed to cancel the order. He hesitated. Sir, we have non-refundable, I understand. I'm not asking for my money back. I'm telling you I'm pulling the plug. If you serve food on that day, you're doing it for free. He went quiet. Then he sighed. Okay, I get it. Next was the venue. The woman on the line had a voice like a wedding commercial, cheery, rehearsed. Hi! Yes, Mark Langston. Groom's father, that's right. Pause. No, I won't be attending. In fact, no one will. I'm canceling the entire event. There was a long silence. I'm sorry, sir. Did something happen? No, I said. Nothing happened. I just finally listened. She didn't press further. Maybe she'd heard worse. By noon, I'd canceled the florist, the string quartet, the baker, the shuttle company, the photographer. The only one I didn't call was the wedding planner. I needed him to show up that day. I needed the wheels to turn just enough to give the truth a stage of its own. Debbie sat beside me through every call. She even made some of them herself, when my voice started to crack. I watched her talk to the bakery with the same calm she used when managing veterans with PTSD at her clinic. No, there won't be another date, she told the bakery. This wedding is over. When the cancellations were done, I sat in silence for a moment. The room felt cleaner. Still heavy, but like air was finally flowing again. Debbie turned to me. You sure about this? I nodded. If I was nothing but a wallet to him, I said, then the wallet just closed. I wasn't trying to get revenge. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just knew I couldn't be part of it. Couldn't pay for a ceremony where I'd been erased. Couldn't keep funding a story where I was the villain. If they wanted to build a world without me, they could do it on their own dime. That night, Debbie and I went out for dinner. It was nothing fancy. Just a quiet booth at a diner we used to visit when we first started dating. Chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, sweet tea. We didn't talk about the wedding. We just sat in the booth, holding hands like teenagers, and watched the world go by outside the window. It was the most peace I'd felt in months. The next day, I got a call from the wedding planner. Hi, this is Trevor from Oak and Pine Events. I just wanted to confirm a few final details for next week's event. I wouldn't bother, I said. Excuse me? There is no event. Silence. I've canceled everything else. You'll find out soon enough. He started to stammer contracts, commitments, reputation, but I hung up before he could finish. That evening, I wrote a letter. Not to Tyler. To myself. I wrote everything I needed to say, everything I'd wanted to scream into the phone, everything I'd tried to get across through text, voicemail, email, and then I folded it, put it in an envelope, and slipped it into the back of my desk drawer. Not for him, for me. To remind myself, if the guilt ever crept back in, that I had done everything a father condoned, then some. Letting go isn't always about anger. Sometimes it's about survival. And survival, I was finally learning, doesn't always mean keeping the peace. Sometimes it means walking away from the war altogether. The wedding day arrived like a quiet thunderstorm. Debbie and I didn't say much that morning. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table with our coffee mugs, watching the clock tick like we were waiting for a tremor. It was a Saturday, clear skies, no wind. The kind of morning you'd expect would be perfect for a lakeside wedding. Instead, we waited. Not out of spite, but out of inevitability. We both knew what was coming. By 10:12 a.m., the first call came in. My niece Madison. She didn't waste time. Uncle Mark, what the hell is going on? What do you mean? I'm standing at the venue. The gates are locked. There's security out front. The planner's pacing around like he's gonna pass out. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Oh, I said. That's strange. Did you cancel the wedding? I paused. Madison, I just stopped paying for it. Click. She hung up. 5 minutes later, the phone lit up again. Then again. Messages. Missed calls, texts stacking like dominoes. I turned off the ringer and slid the phone into a drawer, let the chaos speak for itself. Through our front window, the world outside moved normally, neighbors mowing lawns, dogs barking, a kid riding past on a skateboard. But I knew that 370 miles away, in Crater Lake, Oregon, something very different was happening. According to the secondhand accounts we'd hear later from family, friends, and eventually the internet, here's how it unfolded. At 9 a.m., the wedding planner and his crew arrived to begin setup. The gates to the lodge were locked. The on-site manager, who had already been notified of the cancellation, informed them that the event had been taken off the schedule days ago. The planner argued, pulled out contracts, called the owner. Didn't matter. The owner simply said, "Mr. Langston canceled. The account is closed. There is no wedding." The planner tried to reach Tyler. No answer. Tried Aaron. Still nothing. Tried me. Straight to voicemail. The team stood in the parking lot, phones in hand, watching their weekend collapse in slow motion. By 10:30 a.m., Tyler arrived tuxedo perfectly pressed, hair slicked back, and flanked by two groomsmen. They thought they were walking into a fairy tale. Instead, they were met with locked gates and security guards who refused to let them past. Apparently, Tyler's first reaction was confusion. "This has to be a mistake," he said. "Call the manager." When told the event had been canceled by the primary funder, he said, "But I'm the groom." "Yes," they replied, "but you're not the client." He tried to call the planner. Still nothing. Then came Aaron. He arrived in a separate car, looking more annoyed than anxious. When he saw Tyler standing outside the venue, already in full panic mode, he rolled down his window and said, "What's going on?" Tyler snapped, "I don't know. My dad must have done something. He's trying to ruin this," the planner finally called back. His voice reportedly was shaking. "There's nothing I can do," he told Tyler. "Your father was the account holder. Everything's canceled. And, honestly, I'm out several grand myself." According to Madison, who had driven in early with a few friends, the guests started arriving around 11 a.m. Dresses, suits, bouquets in hand, smiles on their faces, until they saw Tyler pacing the gravel driveway like a man who just realized the plane was never coming. There were no flowers, no chairs, no music, no catering, just confusion, frustration, phone calls flying back and forth, an entire event folding in on itself like a house of cards. Aaron confronted Tyler in front of several guests, loud enough to draw attention. "You told me your dad was on board," he said. "You told me everything was fine." "It was fine," Tyler yelled. "He did this out of spite. He's toxic." "He's always been toxic." Aaron didn't buy it. That's when he walked away. Left Tyler standing there, surrounded by 200 people with nowhere to go and nothing to celebrate. Rick Jensen? Never showed up. Not even a text. Not even a call. Just gone. Tyler, still in his tuxedo, started yelling at security guards, demanded they let him in, accused them of trespassing on his property, even though he never owned a cent of it. Eventually, someone pulled him back. Someone LSN01 remembers who started live streaming. The video hit TikTok that night and racked up nearly 200,000 views by morning. Title: When Your Dad Cancels Your Wedding and You Find Out at the Gate. The comments ranged from brutal to bewildered. The top one read, "Imagine deleting your dad and still expecting his check to go through." By late afternoon, guests had either gone home or tried to salvage the day at a local brewery. Madison said it was like watching a funeral without a body. And Tyler? He showed up at our house at 12:41 a.m. still in the tux, still covered in dust from the parking lot, still furious. He leaned on the horn like a madman, lights on, music blasting. Debbie got out of bed. I stopped her. "He doesn't get to bring that here." He got out of the car, stormed to the gate, and started screaming, "I know you're in there." We stayed silent. "I know you did this. You ruined my life." Debbie pressed the remote. The gate stayed closed. He picked up a rock and hurled it at the security camera. The feed crackled, but the footage held. He tried again. Missed. The neighbors called the cops. When the patrol car pulled up, Tyler broke down, collapsed on the lawn in tears, sobbing into the sleeves of his rented jacket. I watched from the upstairs window. My son, my only child, reduced to a tantrum in the middle of the night, because the fantasy he built on someone else's dime came crashing down. The officer spoke with him for a few minutes, eventually led him back to his car. No arrest, just a warning. Tyler peeled out of the neighborhood like a kid trying to outrun a lesson. I didn't sleep that night, not because I felt guilty, but because for the first time in months, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just the flat, echoing quiet of someone who had finally run out of chances to give. The morning after the wedding that never was, the air felt strangely still. Not peaceful, just empty. Debbie brewed coffee like she always did, but the clink of the spoon in her mug sounded louder than usual. She didn't say much, neither did I. There was a weight in the silence, but also something else like a bruise finally beginning to fade. I didn't check my phone. Didn't need to. I knew the fallout had already started. Around noon, I got a knock on the door. It wasn't Tyler, it was my parents. They live 3 hours away and don't travel much anymore. My dad's knees are bad, and my mom's always been skittish about long drives, but there they were on my front porch, dressed like they'd just come from church. "Can we come in?" my mom asked. I nodded. We sat around the dining table where Tyler used to do his math homework. My mom, never one to ease into conflict, dove right in. "I don't know what happened," she said, her voice trembling. "But whatever it was, Mark, how could you ruin your own son's wedding?" I opened my mouth but nothing came out. My dad just looked at me, that disappointed kind of stare that hits harder than shouting. "I tried calling him last night," he said quietly. "He wouldn't talk. Just kept saying you sabotaged everything." I took a deep breath, and then I told them everything, not in anger. Not in self-defense, just facts, start to finish. How I raised Tyler alone, how I supported him through every stumble, how I paid for everything without asking for anything in return. How I only canceled when I realized I'd been reduced to a Wallatoosed and discarded. I didn't embellish. I didn't cry. When I finished, the silence in the room felt colder than before. My mom shook her head slowly. "Even so, Mark, we don't turn our backs on family. We're supposed to be better than this." I looked down at my hands. "I didn't turn my back," I said. He pushed me out the door and locked it behind me. They left shortly after. We didn't hug. Later that night, Debbie came into my office holding her phone. "You're not going to like this," she said. She showed me a post from Facebook Aaron's mother, writing a public message offering to fund a new, inclusive, joyful wedding celebration for Tyler and Aaron. I just stared at the screen. My own parents hadn't even offered that. I laughed, not out of humor, out of disbelief, but it didn't end there. Apparently, when Aaron's parents showed up to make their grand offer, Tyler lost it. Started screaming at them, accused them of buying his love, of taking sides, of judging him. He told them to leave. According to Debbie's friend who knew Aaron's sister, Tyler blamed them for always liking Aaron more and said they didn't deserve to be there if they couldn't support him unconditionally. That same day, he screamed at his grandparents. Me parents accused them of choosing me over him. My mother, who used to knit him scarves and bake him cookies every Christmas, was left standing in the hallway of his apartment, sobbing. That was the moment they finally saw it. My dad called me later that night. "Mark," he said, "I'm sorry. We should have believed you." I didn't say anything for a while. Then I whispered, "I wish we didn't all have to lose him to see it." In the days that followed, the family splintered. My sister, who always had a soft spot for Tyler, called me crying after he blocked her for simply asking what happened. My brother, Joe, stayed neutral for about a week, then took to Instagram to make some vague post about old people sabotaging new love. Debbie's family? They were done. Completely. Her mother, who had once tried to embrace Tyler as her own, called him a black hole of entitlement in Arabic. I didn't ask for the exact translation. And then there was Aaron. He messaged me a month later. It started with an apology. Said he'd been completely blindsided by how Tyler treated me. Said that Tyler had painted me as some kind of cold, bitter man who never accepted his identity, when in fact, Aaron now realized the real issue had nothing to do with acceptance and everything to do with control. Aaron told me that ever since the canceled wedding, things had spiraled. Tyler became unpredictable, suspicious, volatile. Accused Aaron of orchestrating the whole collapse. Claimed Aaron secretly resented him and wanted the wedding to fail. Aaron moved out 2 weeks later. I asked him gently, why he was telling me all this. His voice cracked over the phone. Because I'm scared for him, he said. And I think you're the only one who ever truly tried. I didn't have an answer, just a hole in my chest where something used to live. A week after that, I got another message, this time from someone I hadn't heard from in years. It was Sophie, Tyler's childhood best friend. They'd drifted apart after high school. She had moved to New Mexico, married young, started a family. She wrote,